How you doing? This is Dr. Shawn Brown of BBC High School, and we are here with Dr. Rushell White, our Deputy Superintendent at Brooklyn North, and it is a privilege to have you.
Likewise, privileged to be here. Thank you.
So today we're going to be interviewing Dr. Rushell White and asking her all about her story, getting all in her business, getting all of the tea, and she's going to share some words of wisdom and encouragement for our students and our staff. So, Dr. Rushell White, welcome again.
Thank you.
And tell us a little bit about yourself. Where were you born?
Sure. I was born in Jamaica, West Indies, in St. Thomas. I'm not going to tell you the year. You guys can guess.
You'll never know.
You'll never know. But I migrated to this country when I was 8 years old. And believe it or not, I migrated to Bushwick, the Bushwick part of Brooklyn, which is 2 minutes from your school.
Okay.
Grew up on Madison Street between Evergreen and Central, and walked to school every day like I did when I was in Jamaica. And I ended up going to IS 383 for my middle school.
383?
Yeah.
Okay, we get a lot of students from there.
Yes.
Okay. So, you were born in Jamaica, you grew up in Bushwick, Brooklyn.
Yes.
So you're from Bushwick.
From
Do you
Bushwick.
represent Bushwick?
I represent Bushwick. That's
Okay,
correct.
cool. Not to
Now
talk
it's
to you.
East Williamsburg now, right?
I don't even know what
Yeah,
you call it.
it's East Williamsburg now.
How was
I
it
represent Bushwick.
when you grew up in Bushwick?
Wow, oh my gosh, that was in the 80s. So
Whoa.
you could date my age, it's okay. In the 80s, it was rough. It was rough. The community was very rough. It was filled with a lot of crime, but it was also amazing because it was very close-knit. It was a close-knit community with family. Everyone knew each other. I wasn't allowed to be a bad child because everybody would tell my mom that was happening. And I grew up in a household with 4 brothers, so I had to make sure that I was walking a straight path my entire life.
You were the youngest of all 5?
I was the second to youngest child.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
How was that having all brothers? Did they
rough.
beat you up or something?
Well, they taught me how to fight.
Okay.
They did teach me how to fight. I never got the chance to watch TV because they always control the TV. They control the remote control. I was a tomboy.
Oh,
I was a tomboy.
No.
I was a tomboy. I had to learn when I was a teenager how to be a girl, how to do things like a girl, and not necessarily walk around like my brothers did. But it was rough. It was my eldest brother who, he was the rock of the family, and he was also the disciplinarian of the family. So I wasn't allowed to do anything at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I can't see it. For real. I know we interviewing and stuff, but I just don't see you being a tomboy.
I was a tomboy, yeah.
So 4 brothers, and you went to Philippa Scholar. Where did you go to high school?
So I wanted to get away from my 4 brothers, and even the youngest one was, even though he was 11 years younger than I was, they all kind of like felt that they can just control my destiny, my future, my everything. I couldn't date. It was a mess. So I ended up applying to a high school. I was a student who loved to dance, and so I wanted to go to a school that had a major as dance and furthest away from my home. So I found a school in Coney Island, John Dewey High School, which was a 2-hour commute every day. So I would be on the train. If I didn't make the 6 o'clock train, I would miss my 8 o'clock class in the morning. So it was a 2-hour commute. It was worth it because I got to learn and be in community with other people in different cultures. It was an opportunity for me to kind of reinvent myself away from my controlling brothers.
Yes.
And so that was a great choice and a great opportunity for me to engage. I'm still in touch with my high school friends.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. I went to graphic arts. It's interesting how those friendships kind of just give you a sense of community.
Exactly.
So obviously, Dr. White was a grade A student in high school. You loved every subject. You never got in any trouble.
Yep. If you see the halo is right here.
Okay.
I have the halo. Perfect student. No, I wasn't.
Okay.
I wasn't. The arts was very key in terms of my focus in school. And so I had I don't know why I keep running into disciplinarians in my life, but I had a teacher who was a dance teacher who was a disciplinarian, who you couldn't get less than like an 80 to be in his class. And so because I wanted to be a part of that dance group, that performing arts group, I had to maintain those grades. Coming from Philippa Schuyler, I did have good grades, but when I got to high school, it was a totally different ball game. I was prepared to engage in high school, but the topics, and sometimes I just felt like I missed some things in classes. I went to school with Jamani Williams.
Jamani Williams, okay.
Who is the lieutenant governor.
Right.
Is he? No, he's not the lieutenant governor. Oh my God, he's gonna kill me.
This is being recorded. So
I know it's being recorded. Jamani Williams, please, I'm so sorry, but we were in school for 4 years together, from 4th to 8th grade.
He's a very important person. Let's just say
very important person. He's second in command of the city of New York. Okay. Let's just say that.
There you go.
Public advocate.
Cool.
So Jamani Williams and I and others at Philippa Schuyler, we had a great time in school, but he was a class clown. And every time I see him, I'm like, I blame you for my math challenges that I have in my life.
So your favorite subject, would you say, was, I don't know, well, outside of, you can't use dance because dance is your thing.
Yeah.
Math, social studies, science, and English. What would you say is your favorite subject?
So English became my favorite subject. It wasn't my favorite at first. Migrating from Jamaica, I had a very heavy accent. And so my teachers who didn't know the culture thought that she needs some support with language. She needs to access language. And so I just couldn't get the command of the English language. We have a dialect in Jamaica called Patois. And that is also colored by the British English. So we would spell things differently, like color was C-O-L-O-U-R. When I came to this country, it was C-O-L-O-R, and it was hard to kind of make that connection for me as a 4th grader. Additionally, my dialect would come in between that. So I didn't quite know how to transition that British from the dialect and to acclimate to the American standard of English. And so that was the most challenging subject for me when I was in school. And I felt that that's what I needed to conquer. And so I made that my goal. I'm gonna conquer English. And then once I started acclimating and getting to understand the rules of applying standard American English, I knew that there were other students who were like me that needed that type of support to get through that. And so that's why I majored. I majored in English when I went to college, went to Brooklyn College, and that became my major. And then I became an English teacher.
So would you say that we're going to talk about your career and why you got into what you got into. Do you feel like what you experienced in school made you want to become a teacher?
Yes.
Was that a part of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I go back to my story of being a student at IS-33, Philippa Schuyler. Whatever I learned in that school, I would be so excited about whatever it was that I would come home and teach it to my younger brother, who was 11 years my junior. And he was 6 months. I remember he was 6 months old. He could barely sit up on his own, and I would prop him up with a pillow and have this little chalkboard and with chalk that I get from Miss Ned, my social studies teacher. I still remember her. Yep, Miss Ned from IS-33. So I'd get a chalk from her, and I would use that to write, whatever lessons there were, any math lessons and so on. So my little 6-month-old brother would always prop himself up and be listening to me teach whatever it is that I learned.
So that was your first?
That was my first. I never imagined that I would be a teacher, but
really?
That was a lead up to that career. Like, you just never know that you're probably doing something that is going to open up the opportunity for your future journey that you're not even aware of.
Yeah, that's cool. So your brother was your first student?
Yes. And he would say I was a very difficult teacher, very demanding.
Okay. So he was your first unofficial student, but your first job teaching. Talk about that. Like, Where was it? How long did you teach there? Like, we want to know all about your experiences as an educator.
Sure. So Maxwell High School was my first job. Yeah, Maxwell High School. And the reason why Maxwell, the reason why Maxwell became a part of my journey is that while getting an English degree, I didn't know what to do with it. As I said, teaching wasn't the thing that I was going to gravitate to. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a professional dancer. There were so many other things, but I majored in English. And so when, like maybe a month before my graduation, I was driving down the street. As I said, I live in Bushwick, and we moved from Madison Street to Schaefer Street. And I was driving down Pennsylvania Avenue and saw this nice building. I was like, oh, this is a cute building. This is cute. I read that it was a high school. I'm like, it'd be nice for me to check out to see if they want an English teacher in that school. And so I looked up the phone number. I got the phone number and I called, and I was immediately transferred to the assistant principal of English. And my question was, hey, I'm just passing by your school, wondering if you have any opportunities for a job. I'm about to graduate my degree. And the AP said, come in tomorrow in the morning.
Wow.
We'll meet, we'll have a
And
conversation.
who was the principal at the time?
The principal was, oh my gosh, what was her name? Zipporah Steiner.
Zipporah Steiner.
Zipporah Steiner.
Shout out Zipporah Steiner.
No, I'm sorry. Barbara Duncan. Zipporah
Barbara
Steiner.
Duncan.
Barbara Duncan was the principal.
Okay.
And the assistant principal was AP Prager. So she invited me to come in. And when I went in, there was someone else in the room with her having a conversation. I sat out there for about an hour and a half. And she then asked me to come in. She asked me 3 questions. Tell me about yourself. Why you are interested in the position here. What was your favorite book that you read? And who's your favorite author? Those 3 things. And that interview with me was 5 minutes. And I thought I blew it. I'm like, I blew that interview. I don't know what's going to happen. It was only a 5-minute conversation. Here she was with this person for like an hour and a half. And then she said to me, I'm going to walk you outside. Thank you for meeting with me. So we went into the elevator and she's like, I need to make one stop. Come with me. So I went with her and she walked me to the principal's office and said, hey, I want you to meet our new English teacher. It was a 5-minute interview.
I know that must have felt great.
It was amazing. Like,
it was like, oh my gosh.
It was,
I'm a teacher.
It was the best. Yeah.
Yeah, I got hired because I spoke broken Spanish. It was the same situation.
Nice.
I helped somebody with something. It was like, oh, you speak Spanish, so you're a teacher for how long?
I taught full-time in the classroom for 3 years.
Okay.
And then I became a dean. So I had a half schedule.
I did something
teaching.
like that too. About 4 years, and then I did the deaning.
Yeah. And then my 5th year in education, I became an assistant principal.
It seems like you had a lot of fun with the kids.
I did.
I've noticed your energy is like, even though you're a deputy, it seems like you really enjoy the kids. How was your time like being with the students? And do you sometimes miss it? Because it seems like you miss it.
So as a deputy superintendent, the best part of my day is spent in schools and spent in classrooms and speaking to students and so on. I really, really love the energy that students bring. You know, they really make you want to push and do better. I even now I hear like my students are now 40-year-olds. Like when I started, I was 22, and they were 20 in high school, and they would tell me, like 45-year-olds I have now, they would tell me that they had the best time in my class, the best time, because I try to relate to them, try to make sure that whatever lessons that I developed had them in the back of my mind, like their experiences, what they wanted to. So I always ask students, like, where do you see yourself in a couple of years? And I make sure that I tie that into the way in which I educate them. I'll bring a video in of someone who they aspire to be. I'll do readings from those things. We'll analyze certain things. I always try to animate the lessons so the kids can be engaged and involved in it. And
And you got to keep up with the culture.
Yeah.
In order to do that.
They'll let you know.
They'll let you know when you're corny.
Yeah.
Yeah, my kids they let me know.
They won't even accept you saying corny anymore.
Yeah, I can't say
you can't say that anymore.
That's whack. What's the word now?
Whack is not it either. You can't say it. Like, we went through phases of being corny. Remember the fresh?
Fresh.
She's so fresh. She's so fly.
Now you have on drip. You have drip on.
I don't even think you can say drip anymore. I think drip was maybe like 4
Drip
years
is over
ago.
now?
Yeah. I think we're at a different. I can't keep up with them.
I give up.
I cannot keep up. Like, my own children look at me like.
I know it's bad. I try to
it.
do like the dances and it never works.
Yeah. No.
All right, so we get so now you go from being a teacher, principal, deputy superintendent, and I know you get a chance to see a lot in the different schools, and I know you see what's happening with a lot of our students in the city. What advice would you give the typical teenager that is in the city nowadays, and there's a lot happening? How can they navigate through all of this? Like, what do you see working for some students? What advice do you give your own children on how to deal with some of the challenges that they face? They're facing a lot of different challenges. So what's your advice?
They do face a lot of challenges, our young people. I would say just to be true to who you are. Be true to who you are. Don't get too caught up in what's popular. Don't get too caught up in what your friends are doing. Be true to who you are. What if you're doing something? Is it because you want to do it for you, or is it because someone is leading you to do that? Stand firm in your ground of where you are, who you are, where you want to be. And I think if you use that as a marker, that'll help a lot. Like, if you're not easily influenced, we see so many people just get easily influenced. Social media is, constantly like pushing different agendas. You have to think about, where do you see yourself in that whole mix? If you're making a decision, is it a decision that's authentically your decision, or is it something that someone said you need to do because of whatever? Are you wearing a certain clothing or style because this is something that you like doing, or is it because you see it, someone else in your class that has that and that you want it? And once you start really identifying and making sure that you stand firm in your own individuality, then you're not so easily swayed into making decisions that really can impact the rest of your life in a negative way.
Yeah. That's good. And also, we're starting to close off, but something else that I wanted to ask you about is, like, there's some people that want to get into education and they kind of feel like, I'm not that guy, or I have certain things about me, I don't feel like I can do it. I'm always trying to inspire people from my neighborhood or from Bushwick, Brownsville, East New York, different places, to give it a try.
Yeah.
You get to see 47 different schools. Do they need people from those communities in the buildings? Can they do a good job? Like, what do you think about
that? So we know New York City is diverse, and there are 60 to 70% of students who are in schools that are Black and brown. Representation is important, experiencing those cultures and being able to come back and teach and talk about and share your experiences absolutely is important. There is definitely a need for a lot of young people to get into teaching, and not to fall into it, but to really intentionally go towards it and become educators. So I would highly, highly recommend. I have my eldest son, who's 28, who fought for all his life. He saw his mom come home with knapsacks of papers, and back in the day when we had to grade everything by hand, and he would see me like coming in and staying up till 2 in the morning grading papers, giving feedback to students, and he's always saying, I would never ever become an educator. And just like 3 months ago, the boy called me. He's a man now, sorry. He called me on a Saturday and he's like, what advice would you give me? I'm like, what do you mean? I'm going to go take the content specialty test to become an English teacher. Beautiful. An English teacher? Really? You who fought your whole life? Education? He said, yeah, I think the youths need me, he says. So It's a good look, yeah.
That's cool.
So
That's cool.
he's going into education.
Well, now these are the questions that can get Dr. Rushell White fired. If she
Please
answers
don't.
it wrong, this is going to be on all social media outlets. And
Oh,
we're
Lord.
going to expose her for who she is.
Don't get me fired, please.
Are you ready?
Yes. Not to be
You
fired.
got to make a choice
Okay.
between these two.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna give you two names and you make a choice. Don't explain anything. Don't justify. Don't try to say, well, I was trying to just say. Make a choice.
Okay.
Okay. Beyonce or Rihanna.
Oh my God.
I didn't want to do this, but sometimes you gotta put your job on the line.
Wow.
Don't explain anything. Don't explain why. Just say it.
I'm gonna say Beyonce.
Oh my God. Jamaican. She betrayed her people. Okay, let's see how far this goes. Jay-Z or Nas?
Jay-Z.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Jamaican food, Trinidadian food.
I have to think. No, I don't have to think about that.
God.
Jamaican food.
But the oxtail gravy is what gets you cursed out. You go to the wrong store, they're gonna curse you very bad.
Exactly.
You're into sports?
Somewhat, yeah.
Knicks or Nets?
Nets. Every day. Nets.
Okay,
I'm a
good.
Brooklyn girl.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And you have to recite the rest of this verse.
Oh
If
my
you don't
God.
say this part of the verse, you should be fired.
No, I can't. No, I shouldn't be fired.
Okay,
I should be professionally developed.
Development.
Okay.
Like I need. It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine. Salt and pepper and heavy. No?
I know it was all a dream.
I used to read Word Up.
Magazine.
So, oh my
No.
God.
I'm sorry.
Alright guys.
It's a cultural thing. I'm sorry. It's a cultural thing.
Okay,
I
so
listen
who's
to
your
a lot of
favorite
reggae.
artist? Who's your favorite artist?
My favorite artist,
I wanna be loved, not for who you think I am.
No.
Build your bond to Jesus.
no, he's not my favorite. I like him though.
Who's your favorite?
Barry Salmon.
Oh my goodness.
Barry Salmon. I'm old
That's
school.
mature music.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got to go. This is School Dismissal. Anyway, thank you for joining EBC High School Studios. Dr. Rushell White, we thank you so much for your work.
Thank
Sister,
you.
keep doing what you're doing.
Thank
You
you
are
so much.
inspiring.
So are you, Dr. Brown. I'm so inspired by you. Thank you for everything that you do for your community.
Thank you. Have a
Thanks
good
for
one.
having me. Bye, guys.
I love you. Flacco, you lost weight?